Welcome to the Homeschool Together podcast. Where one working mom and a stay-at-home dad help you navigate the nuts and bolts of the growing and dynamic world of homeschooling.
With a focus on early learners, like me.
All the ins and outs of building and maintaining your homeschool life.
Homeschool.
Find out tips and tricks to make things like this easier.
I'm reading.
And ultimately, enjoy educating your kids. And what's that last thing?
Have fun together. Did I do good, Daddy?
Yeah, you did, sweetie. Good job. Hello and welcome to Homeschool Together. We're starting a brand new series of interviews of homeschooling journeys, but it's kind of an addendum to that of people who have finished their homeschooling, their first year of homeschooling. And today we have a wonderful interview with Sarah Milloy, and we had just got off the phone with her. She's really, really awesome. I think everybody's going to love it.
Mm-hmm.
But before we begin, if you could go down in the show notes, Sarah lists a ton of things that she uses. We'll have them all in the show notes, all the links, including her Instagram, that we encourage you to follow. She's going to be kind of broadcasting her life as a homeschool parent, and I think you'll want to follow that. You'll want to see what she's doing.
Yeah, we're following her. I'm excited to see where she goes. This was a great interview. I think it's fun. We wanted to do this series because sometimes I feel like we mostly hear from veteran homeschoolers on interviews and things, and we wanted to know, your first year, it can be a bumpy road, right?
Well,
I know our first year was a bumpy road.
And there's a lot of people doing their first year this year, and there's a lot of people who might be just starting their first year this year. And, with us, with the first years being in the same year as a pandemic, I mean, you got a lot of pressures, a lot of complications, a lot of concerns, a lot of things that are different than what it would normally have been. So we talk about a lot of those challenges, a lot of those issues, and also on top of it, she's a super mom.
Mm-hmm.
She's got the 5-year-old boy who's, sounds like he's
4.
just rippingly intelligent. But she's also got twins, 2 years old. So if you're sitting there at home going, this Matt guy has been talking about his toddler and all these terrible things. Now this woman's got 2 of them.
Well, right. And I can't imagine having a 4-year-old and twin 2-year-olds.
Can't imagine.
I mean, that's just,
can't imagine.
I think that's, it's a challenge. And I think she talks about some great ways that she works with the challenge of having toddlers and keeping them engaged while she's getting some homeschool work done with her son. And so, we took some lessons from that that we'll use around our house. So I hope this is helpful to everybody to hear the story from someone's first year. If you're going through your first year as well, you can kind of hear some of the struggles and things that have happened and some of the ways that she's overcome those. And I think it's really great.
Yeah. And how my biggest takeaway from her is the routine, understanding, what you're doing, how you're attacking the day, and how you adapt when things change. She talks a lot about being an eclectic homeschooler, and she'll go into great detail about what that is and what that means to her and how she incorporates that into her homeschool life. But being able to deal with the day, manage the week, and to good success. And I think that was the thing that I think I'll take away the most is that, how she manages her day. It's a very full day. I think at the end of this, end of this podcast, you'll be really impressed at all the things she does in a day.
We were impressed. We do not do that many things in a day.
Yeah, and it's pretty impressive. And the commitment that she has, I think is just amazing to listen to, and I think it's very inspiring. It makes me want to go out, tomorrow
and get a morning basket.
And it makes me want to get my morning basket, fall flat on my face, and then have to recover. But
that's what it's all about. It's all about the learning.
It is, and I think that's the key thing is we're all learning right along with our kids. We're learning how to manage kids. A lot of us are not educators. Unfortunately, Sarah is an educator. She was an educator for 10 years. She'll go into a little bit about that in her background and why she chose to homeschool. I think we all see very similarities with her decisions and the choices that she made. The fact that she is educated in doing that, I always love to learn from people who know what they're doing and have experience in doing the things that you want to do. Not that you want to ape or monkey see, monkey do type of thing what they're doing or copy it, but you want to learn from that incorporate and, grok what they're doing and see how that can, be folded over what you do and what your experience is and what works best for you. So I love to listen to people who know what they're doing. And I think she does. And I think this is going to be a great podcast. So let's hop right into it.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we're really happy to have you on the show. This is the first in a series we're going to do.
Series
on first year homeschoolers. So we're super excited. We are also we're like a year and a half homeschooler. So I mean,
no, we talked about the other day. I'm 2 years.
We're now 2 years.
I'm
Okay,
2 years,
we don't
yes.
qualify anymore. It's like we're no longer newlyweds.
No, we're established couple now.
So, Sarah, it would be great if you could give us like a little bit of background about your family and then what drove your decision to homeschool.
Sure. My husband and I have a 4.5-year-old son and 2-year-old twins. I was a teacher for 13 years, most recently teaching 3rd grade at a private school. I did that for 10 years. And I started to think about homeschooling when I went back to work after my maternity leave with my first son. And at that point, we had a long time till we had to make any decisions. But I broached the idea with my husband, and he was on board for considering it. So then about 2 years later, I got pregnant with the twins. And at that point, we decided that I would stay home with them. And that's when homeschooling became more of a reality for us. This year, we did plan to send Preston to a 3-morning-a-week pre-K, mostly just for the socialization aspect. But due to COVID, we couldn't send him. And so we kind of got started a little earlier than we had planned.
That's really interesting that you were a private school teacher. Did you have any, and you said you were kind of looking to do homeschooling. Is there a reason why, like you're in the private school experience, you're teaching, is there a reason why you wanted to do homeschooling?
Well, we considered that I could go back to work and they would attend the school that I taught at. Okay. But with all 3 of them going there, that would mean that most, if not all of my salary would end up going towards their tuition. So the way that I looked at it was I could sort of, enter the rat race and get 3 kids out the door by 7 every morning and work full time teaching other people's kids while other people taught mine and come home exhausted and still have to help with homework and all of that. And the other side of that was if we homeschooled, we could just embrace the flexibility and the slower lifestyle that would allow us and have the opportunity to spend those years. I could spend those years with my kids and for my kids to spend those years together. And as a bonus, I'd still be teaching, which I love, but I could really tailor my kids' education to fit their interests and needs. So when we thought about like that, it was kind of a no-brainer.
That's really interesting. What if any, preconceptions did you have about homeschooling? I know that there's a lot. It seems very, very foreign, and especially folks who are in education and used to teaching in a formal institution. What were your thoughts about it? Has it been what you thought it would be?
Well, I did follow a lot of Instagram accounts, and I have a few friends who homeschool. So I was pretty well warned that, homeschooling doesn't look like a classroom, and don't expect that because you were a teacher at school, things are going to translate to homeschool. And definitely with my kids being this young right now, they haven't. But I wasn't expecting them to, but I think that's sort of the main thing that people kind of warned me about, or just sort of, made sure that I was aware of before we started. I think beyond that, I haven't really come upon any surprises. Everything's pretty much going the way that I had an idea that it would.
Okay. And do you think that confidence you have comes from the fact that you used to be a teacher, or is that just the fact that you are approaching it in a certain manner that is giving you the confidence?
I think having taught definitely gives me some confidence. I know about curriculums. I know just basic teaching strategies and things to do. So that definitely helped my confidence in that way. I know that I can teach kids. So that made me feel better about it, I think.
Yeah, I know that was kind of my fear. I spent a long time in kind of the corporate world, and I did a lot of lectures and meetings and everything like that. So I felt like I was decent at presenting information, but that was to adults, and so
Yeah.
very often they can be a little more difficult than kids. But um, that's really interesting. Were you teaching a certain grade, or did you have a certain specialty at the private school?
So I taught third grade homeroom for 10
Homeroom.
years.
Okay,
And
and what?
before that, I was a lower school assistant. So I taught sort of different things in all the grades as I was needed. But
Okay,
my main experience is homeroom third grade.
okay, and so this year, so you talked about you were going to send your oldest to kind of a preschool. Are you still intending to do that going forward once COVID kind of relaxes?
No, next year he would be in kindergarten. And it was always my intention to bring him home. We did just sign up for a co-op.
Okay.
So on Fridays next year, we'll go for 3 hours with, I believe it's about 20 families.
Oh wow! So is that a private co-op, or is that like a parent partnership?
It's a private co-op. So in my state in Maryland, we don't have any type of like charter schools or parent partnerships or anything like that. You're either in the public schools, in a private or parochial school, or you're a homeschooler. And if you're a homeschooler, you're on your own.
Okay. Are
Mhm.
there certain regulations in Maryland that are like we've talked a little bit about what Washington's like, and I think we've touched on a few other states. Maybe you can have you done some diving into what the regulations are for?
Yes. So there are two options. The first option is that you can review with your county. And I believe it's twice a year you have a portfolio review, and you are required to provide instruction in 8 subject areas. So reading, math, language arts, art, music, health, PE. I'm missing some, but
Mhm.
you then basically put together a portfolio saying this is what I'm doing with a few work samples for each of those subjects. If you don't want to review with the county, you can also enroll in an umbrella program, which is kind of more like a private oversight. A lot of them are through a church,
Hmm.
and then you will get reviewed with them.
And when you say through a church, is that a church that has some type of school attached to it, or is that?
Not necessarily. And there are also umbrellas at church. There are some secular umbrellas, but I think if I'm correct, that the umbrellas started through churches
Okay, as an alternative for the homeschooling
for
community.
the
Okay.
as an alternative to being reviewed through the county.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Hmm.
That's very interesting. So when you started this year, you were hoping to do this preschool. Were you also eyeballing a curriculum as well? And was that your plan, or did you have to then pivot during COVID to something like what you're doing now?
Yes. So I was planning on doing a phonics program with him. We started that over the summer and he was doing really well with it. So we were planning to continue that. And I thought maybe I would do some
Which one
math.
did you use?
Well, so we are eclectic homeschoolers. And
Mhm.
so I do follow curriculums, but I don't always just pick one curriculum and go with it. I definitely like to pull things from other sources. So we
Mhm.
started Logic of English, and that was going great. He was learning his phonograms. And then when that kind of went to the next level of working on blends, I thought he still needed some more practice with his phonograms before we moved into blends. And so I also had All About Reading because I was sort of deciding which of those two we were going to use. And so I went back and did the phonogram lessons with All About Reading to sort of just practice the skills we had already done. And that worked really well. And it just kind of gave him time to catch up and have plenty of practice reading all of those words. Logic of English doesn't have as much word practice,
Hmm.
word reading practice. There's a lot of phonogram practice and a lot of games, but not as much practice reading the words, especially early on. So we did the All About Reading lessons. And then once the All About Reading lessons came up to blends, we paused, we went back to Logic of English, did the blends with Logic of English, and then went back to All About Reading to sort of practice them. And that's been going really, really well for us to sort of, I start with Logic of English. That's our base. That's the scope and sequence that I'm using. That's
Mhm.
the terminology that I'm using. But then I am pulling in the All About Reading lessons just for that extra practice to firm up his knowledge, and just to give him some extra time because he's so young. He wants to do a lesson like every day, sometimes even on the weekends. And so like we were just kind of getting through them too quickly, and he wasn't having time to mature and soak it all in and really learn it. So yeah, we're kind of doing 2 reading programs.
No,
which
that's really,
I want to say that's like not something that people have to do. I know you have a lot of
overachiever
people here. That is not like, I don't think I know of anyone else who is doing something like that, but it's just kind of working for us. So we'll see how long we keep doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to key in on the eclectic homeschooling because I like to pull in different things as well, like kind of what you're saying, but I don't do the hopping between the curriculums like you just articulated. But what does that mean to you to be an eclectic homeschooler, and how does that impact your day to day or week to week?
So I pull from a lot of different things. I'm definitely a big believer in making the curriculum work for me and not working for my curriculum. So if something's not working for us, then I'll change it or supplement or do what I need to do to make it fit our goals for my family. I want my children to love learning, especially at this young age. It should be pretty much all fun and enjoyable for them. I want them to be curious. I want them to ask questions. And I'm also using this time while they're so young to just expose them to a lot of different things, to see what their natural learning style is. I want to know what kind of activities are going to hold his interest, what things might be difficult for him, and things like that. So I sort of have looked through things. I've tried to find what I think will work, but I'm not attached to it. And if I see something that I think would go well for it, I'll figure out a way to work it in. So for math, I use Singapore Dimensions, and that's something that I don't really supplement with at all. I think it's a really good program. It's working well for him and it builds on itself. So I need to sort of stick with it now so that when he is older and in the more advanced lessons, he has the base that they want him to have. So that is pretty much just one thing. I'm looking into doing maybe some wild math or something like that this summer that we can do outside, but we pretty much do Singapore math. But then besides the math and the language arts, I don't really have a curriculum for the rest of our day. We do have a little science curriculum called Summer's Lab, which has some units. It has 8 units with then like 4-week sessions within each unit. So there's an animals unit, and then it's like 1 week is amphibians, 1 week is birds. Right now we're on chemistry. So we did 1 week on atoms. We did 1 week on melting and freezing. This week's on mixtures and solids. And it's literally just like a little reading and coloring thing for him and some arts and craftsy kind of projects that go along with it. There's always a snack or some kind of cooking thing that goes along with it. And then some supplemental books. But that's something where I will bring in tons of other things. So when we did our space unit, I found just a bunch of printables and some really great like flashcards and 3-part cards and things like that I would bring in to the base curriculum that I have. But the rest of our day is really things that I just sort of bring together that I think he would like and that I want to expose him to. We call it our breakfast basket. It's kind of like our morning time, and we start it at breakfast. But it kind of just sort of goes throughout our morning as long as they're interested. So sometimes that's 10 minutes and sometimes it might be an hour and a half.
And how do you keep the 2-year-olds interest in that?
Hold on, we were going to get there. We're going to get to your super mom status. Let's keep the badge aside real quick. We'll let everybody know where we're going on that one. A little teaser.
We have a 20-month-old.
I did want to jump back. Like I was just keying in on something you were saying a little earlier about how you observe your oldest when they're learning in order to keep it, loose and fun and enjoyable. for a lot of early homeschoolers, especially people who are just getting into it, there's a lot of fear that you're going to lose control. Or we just put out a podcast about the, teaching through the tiers. What are the little things that you do to watch your oldest when you're doing the education and ensuring that what you're doing is keeping their attention? How do you make sure that what you're doing because you are doing this eclectic thing, what do you look for, and how do you respond when you think things are, starting to go a little south?
So I guess the first thing I think about is, why are they going south? Is it because he's not interested in what I'm asking him to do? Is it because thinks that it might be too hard? Is it that he's just tired and finished with doing school at that point in the day? Is it because he's thinking about something else? And so usually I can just because he's my son and I know him, I can usually kind of tease some of that out. Yeah. And sometimes I'll ask him, like, do you not want to sit and read this book because you are no longer interested in life cycles? That's something that he was super interested in after we raised some caterpillars last year into butterflies, into monarchs, and released them. He wanted to know all about the life cycles and of everything. So there's actually a DK book called Life Cycles that we got, and we've been reading a page of that a few times a week. And so if for some reason one day he doesn't want to sit there and look at it, when it's been something he was really interested in, I'll ask him, are you ready to move on from this? Do we want to just put this book aside for a while? Or is it just that today, right now, this is not going to happen? He'll usually tell me, no, I do like this. Maybe I don't want to read this particular life cycle today, or maybe this is not the time for me. Or sometimes he'll say, yeah, I don't want to do that. So another thing that we were doing is reading through a book of instruments in the orchestra. And we were talking about each instrument, looking at the pictures, and the book gives a link to listen to some musical pieces that feature that instrument. And at first he was into it, but after a few of them, he was over it. And so when I asked him about that, he was just like, I don't want to do this book anymore.
Do you find, might be a two-part question or two directions. Is it very stressful to you as a stay-at-home, as a homeschooling mother, doing this kind of eclectic thing, to keep it fresh, to find the new things? You may find some issue tomorrow and you've got to come up with something new the next day, right? Well, and so is there a lot of pressure on you? Do you feel that pressure?
So I'm a planner and I'm super structured. Thanks, Ariel, for your Trello videos. They've been really helpful because I was using
Planners Unite.
I see the goosebumps on Ariel's forearms.
Listen.
I definitely totally changed the way that I was using Trello after I watched them.
I'm so glad it was helpful.
So yes, that was super helpful. But so no, what I do is I have an idea of how our week is going to go. And I have an idea of all of the things that I want to do. And that's like my plan A, which I don't know if we've had a week where my plan A has actually happened, the way it is drawn out. So there's also plan B and plan C. And I typically sort of over plan. Like I have some activities that I'm like, we're definitely going to do these. I know these are going to be sort of the core of our week. So here's this art project that goes with what we're talking about in science. He's for sure going to be into that. I might not know it's going to happen on Tuesday at 11 o'clock, but I know that's going to happen in our week. And I know that we're going to read from this poetry book most mornings. And if we don't get to it one day, we don't get to it one day. But so I'll have like my plan A and then sort of my pared down plan B and plan C. So if anything, I just have too many resources already. So if he's not into one, there's just plenty of things waiting in the wings to kind of bring out.
No, that's totally understandable. Okay, so we're going to get into the big thing. So you're going to be the super mom of the day. I have one 20-month-old.
One.
And you have two. So talk a little bit about how you manage twins with your homeschooling, or What does your day look like?
That is super
educate us.
Interesting. Yes. So our day, well, I'm lucky because my kids all sleep in. So they'll all sleep in until 7:30 or 8 in the morning, which is nice. So we don't have super early mornings.
Interview's over. I'm not interested anymore.
No, our kids sleep in a little bit.
A little bit. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I apologize.
So that's great. We can sort of have a slow morning. They'll get up. I'll usually go down and make breakfast, and my husband will get them dressed and send them down. And that way I'm like ready to go once they come down, and they'll sit at the table and I will just grab our breakfast basket out and start reading books. So we'll do some picture books from maybe something that goes along with the science that we're studying. We'll do seasonal books. I love the Read Aloud Revival book lists. She has a seasonal book list, like a monthly book list with books. So I usually just put those on hold at the library as early as I can, and we'll go through those. We will read from a poetry book. We'll read, like I said, that life cycles book he's really into right now. So I just start pulling books and start reading while they're eating. And at some point, their dad will come down and get ready to leave. So that's sort of like a pause, and they'll finish up breakfast and we'll move into the family room. And at that point is when it can start getting tricky with the toddlers. They're the books. Then sometimes when we move down there, they're finished listening to books. So I have some toys out, and I'll have like maybe a sensory tray out on a mat in the middle of the room with not like rice or something, but it's something that's a little easier to clean up, but that they're interested in. Magnet tiles they like. So I just try to have something there that can occupy them while we're doing this. And also Preston, because he'll listen to the books during breakfast, and then he might want to snuggle up on the couch and keep looking at the pictures, or he might want to build with his Legos or magnet tiles or something while I'm reading. Or maybe we're just finished reading for the day at that point. That's sort of, I have to take it from them, because if they're not into it, then I would just be sitting on the couch reading to myself while they're destroying my house. So we just sort of see how it goes at that point. But I do have the next part of the breakfast basket is when I have Preston fill out like a little calendar. He'll trace the whatever day it is. We do like a little mini warm-up math and reading page. I just have sort of some little stuff like that, some critical thinking books from the Critical Thinking Company that have like mazes or problem solving type things. And they're all super short activities, little puzzle type activities. And so I just will then sort of start pulling as many of those as I can for him. And it's the same thing. We'll kind of go through that. And sometimes the toddlers, the twins, will be interested in what we're doing. It's gotten much better. I would say right around coming upon 2, it got much easier, because they would take interest in the books, and then maybe I could give them some paper and crayons, and they think they're doing what he's doing. Okay. And again, all of these, like every activity on its own is like 2 minutes to 5 minutes, maybe even less. Like I do these just super short things, and kind of, we just do as many as we can, as many as it's going to work for. And some days it's a lot, and some days it's hardly any at all.
And that includes your reading and your math curriculums?
So no, this is just our breakfast basket. So this is just sort of the stuff that I've pulled in that I'm trying to cater to his interest, get him used to sitting and listening to me reading. Calendar work, sort of circle time kind of stuff. We do some memory work. I'll ask him to tell me the months of the year, the days of the week. Yeah. What's mama's phone number? Those kind of things. The math and the reading we do during the baby's nap. There's just no other way around.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. There's literally no other way I could do it. I mean, I try actually, like, for example, today I did a full on all about reading lesson with the toddler in the room. And I was able to do it because she was distracted. But if they're not distracted, I can't do it.
You were lucky, Buza.
Well, yeah, the 5-year-old.
You were lucky.
Like, I don't know about your son, but can you see that they get distracted when the kids are like toward?
Oh, yes, for sure.
And pulling the drywall off.
The toddlers want to be in it. So like, if he's doing a workbook, a lot of times like if he's trying to do a page of math, they're not always content to just draw next to him. They want to draw on his workbook.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like,
or on him.
Or on him.
So, if it's just a little short warm-up thing, he doesn't mind, and it's not a big deal. And his sister will draw on the back of the other page that he's not drawing on, and it's fine. But if we're really trying to sit there and do a math lesson, there's just no way. That's not going to happen. I will. So after we finish our breakfast basket, I mean, that could be any time from like 9:30, 9:45, or maybe some days we can get all the way up to 10:30. But whatever time it is, at that point, we'll try to get outside most days, unless it's pouring down rain or freezing cold. We at least go out for a little bit. And then we'll come in and do like art, like a project that the twins can do too, or at least like semi do along with my older. We might do a cooking project if it's something that I can get them involved in. They really like that. And so they're pretty good about, behaving and following directions and not making a complete mess of the kitchen. So that's something that's gotten better these last few months. We were not able to do any of that kind of stuff before they turned 2, for sure. I mean, that's pretty much our morning is. Yeah, it's definitely getting much easier as they're able to do more and participate more in our day. So they might not be doing the exact same thing that he's doing, but they can use the same sort of materials to do their own thing. And so that's pretty much our morning is breakfast basket, outside, and art, cooking. It may be a science, like I could maybe do a science reading because they're just super short and there's a coloring page that goes with it. And I've even photocopied the exact same coloring page that Preston's doing for the twins, just so they think they're doing the exact same thing. And then we do lunch. And if we didn't get to a craft or something before lunch, we'll do it after lunch. And then the twins go to bed. And that's when we do our math. So he knows he'll play on his own. And I'll say, when I come back down, I'm going to clean up lunch and then we're doing math. And he's pretty much, 99% of the time he's fine with that. And he's ready to go and get started on that at that point. And he'll do his math and then go for a rest. He goes up to his room. He doesn't nap anymore. He hasn't napped in a while, but he knows that that's his time to stay in his room. And that's sort of my time to get a breather for the first time all day.
Quiet time is like essential.
Yeah, I really do.
Even though ours doesn't nap either, we still do quiet time. And I think it's really healthy for them.
Yeah, I really do. I agree. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it definitely is healthy for him to have just some time alone. He has a big train track set in his room, and he'll usually just build a giant train for an hour, and that's great.
For you, that's pretty much the end of the day for the homeschooling is basically at that
no.
point. Okay.
So after his rest time, he'll come down, and that's when we do reading. I found it doesn't really work well to do reading and math all together. It's just sort of he's not ready to sit for 45 minutes to an hour. So it's usually, 15 or 20 minutes of math, then rest time. And then we do the reading after that on the back end of the baby's nap. Okay. And then that's pretty much it. Then it's, I try to do something with the babies that's just for them. So an alphabet puzzle or a bigger sort of sensory bin thing or some sort of matching thing when they get up from their naps. And then it's dinner and bath and all of that. And then when the babies go to bed, he has somehow conned me into doing another language arts lesson. I think he's trying to delay bedtime. But we found that he actually is like calm and able to concentrate. So we're secular homeschoolers, but I pulled in the good and the beautiful kindergarten language arts just because the lessons are super short and they're pretty engaging for him. And it's just something we can do, like sitting on my bed. And he was asking to do school then, and I was going to take advantage of it. So we've been doing that, and it's been working well. And that's also when he'll read aloud to me. In the All About Reading, there's usually 2 stories in a lesson to read. So we'll read one in the afternoon, and then we'll read the other one at night if it's one of the days that we're doing All About Reading and it has one of those stories, or we have some other readers that he likes. So he'll read to me, and then I'll read a chapter book aloud to him. And so that's sort of the tail end. The babies go to bed around 8, and I'll do that with him from like 8 to 8:30, 8 to 8:45, and then he goes to bed. So he does have a little nighttime school.
Well, yeah, we read to ours as well. Every evening, she and I are either play a game together, or we will just read. We're usually reading like 2-chapter books and some sort of nonfiction book at the same time, because she just can't get enough of books, which is
that's so great. We love games too, and again, like the games with the babies is just a giant mess. So we have to lock those away for nap time or after they go to bed too.
The funny thing is, Ariel and I were just talking about this. We were like, well, we do so much game schooling and game reviews on the podcast and stuff, and there's like a large portion of the day where we cannot bring any of those out because of the young one.
I know it's hard, and he always asks, and he says, "Mama, can we play this game? Can we just try? Like, it's okay if the babies mess it up." And we try, and then it always ends up being a frustrating time. So we just still need a little more time before we can do that.
Our youngest will try to play like My First Orchard. We've been able to get a couple of their really early games. She's maybe a few months away from being able to do that because they're just big wooden fruit pieces. So it's not really, it's kind of going to be on her level as she gets a little bit older, but it's super frustrating. Our daughter says the same. Like, can we just try? And it's like, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it.
What I want to try soon, I think it's called Uno Barn or something like that.
Yeah, Uno Moo.
Uno Moo.
Yeah. I want to try that with the twins, and maybe in like 3 or 4 months they'll be ready for it.
Yeah, we did a review on it a couple weeks back. So if you listen back a couple episodes, it's really great because it's a really terrific first game because it's just these little round animals and the barn type thing. And we found our toddler plays with it endlessly. Mm-hmm. Not the game, but just to play with the pieces. Mm-hmm. So they have held up pretty well.
So maybe talk a little bit about, this past year you went from having 1-year-olds to having 2-year-olds with your son. Obviously that's a challenge. Were there any other challenges and issues that you had to overcome this year?
So yes, the twins
besides a global pandemic.
Well, so I would say the twins were challenge number 1, and then COVID was challenge number 2, just that, we couldn't do the programs at our library. Mm-hmm. We have a few nature centers around us that do these really great kindergarten, preschool programs, field trips, all of that. We could do none of it. So that was really too bad. And that makes me look forward to homeschooling to be able to do all of those things that are part of what makes homeschooling so great. The other challenge was really just not getting to see their friends. That was really hard. And Preston was almost 4 when the pandemic started, so he was just starting to really want to play with other kids and actually play with them and not just play alongside them. Mm-hmm. But I'm in a moms group here, a local moms group, and I got together with 2 of the other moms that are in the group, and we sort of decided, okay, we won't be inside with anybody else. 2 of our husbands work outside the home. That's a risk that we're going to be okay with. And we've been getting together twice a week.
That's good. You formed a little pod
at each other's houses. Yeah. Yes. And that's been really great. So 2 mornings-ish a week, we'll go somewhere around 10 they'll come here. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the only way that we found to get over that friendship hurdle. But it's been good.
Yeah, that's a huge challenge. We've been blessed to have we had a preschool that had really good, security, protocols and everything. So she's been able to do the preschool for majority of this year.
Yeah,
so far.
A couple times a week.
And then she has a friend on the street that's, we're all kind of in a pod type of thing. And she's been able to have some outlets. So nice. I can't imagine, and I really feel a lot of empathy towards anyone who's had, the complete lockdown. We actually know a couple of families that are just under complete lockdown, and they have a little kid and stuff, and it's really, I I hope they can get out soon, because I can't imagine my 5-year-old not seeing another kid. I mean, she's been blessed to have another kid in the house. I mean, that's been the only blessing for her, but being able to interact with other kids her age has been, I think, so beneficial for her.
I think it's a real challenge for kids right now. And one of the things that, for so many families who, even the ones that are enjoying their first year of homeschool, as it sounds like you have, is it still kind of is isolation schooling, which isn't, part of the reason why a lot of us, and I'm sure, you're in this camp too, got into this was for all the great opportunities and things we could give our kids to do things they wouldn't get to maybe do in the classroom. And we can't do any of those things.
Right. That's been really, it's been really tricky. I will say on the other end of that spectrum, though, it's been nice to get my feet wet in it without having a million distractions, because I feel like then at least, we sort of do have a schedule and we are doing school, and it's sort of gotten us into a rhythm that I feel like we'll be able to continue even when we're adding these other things in.
It's true. We can tend to overschedule ourselves.
Yeah. Well, also the bonding. Ariel and I have talked to this a couple times with, our 2 girls. They've had a lot of time together, and they've had a lot of time with us. So there's been kind of that like silver lining where we've had a lot of family time, and I think that's made us stronger and everything. Can I ask you a question about, you have the twins, you're homeschooling. Are you looking forward into the future in the next year or so, thinking about what you're going to be doing for the twins? Are you going to start something when they're 3? I mean, what are you eyeballing for your youngest?
So I'm not 100% sure. Next year, we are going to be doing a co-op. So the twins will also be involved in that. They have like a 0 to 4-year-old room. Okay. So I'm not exactly sure what goes on in there, but I'm sure they're doing, songs and letters and just little preschool type of things. And after that, I'm guessing that they're going to kind of hang along for the ride with us for what we're doing for most things. I think you guys are getting ready to do Build Your Library Torchlight Kindergarten combination.
Yeah, we're going to do that. And then we're going to do Blossom and Root Early Years Volume 1 for our youngest. So that can start kind of 2, 3.
I'm looking to do that same kindergarten combo, not in September. He's not going to be ready then. He'll be just 5, and I want to give him a little longer, but sometime next year we'll sort of start that. And so I anticipate that the babies will be interested in parts of that. And then I'm going to kind of, see what else I want to add into that and what I have time to add into that for them and what they need. So definitely Blossom and Root Early Years one. I did that a little bit with Preston just earlier on. That was just sort of a guide for our days when he was a toddler, to give me some ideas. We didn't really go through it fully or in any type of order, but I just would sort of look through for, okay, like let's talk about this artist and maybe do this art project. So I have that, and I might bring that back out for them. And
she just did an update too.
Pre-K. Yeah. I haven't looked at it.
Yeah. So she's got some new book selections and things, which are good. And Torchlight Pre-K is really good. We did that with our daughter before. We're finishing up. We're like in our last 3 weeks right now, Blossom and Root Volume 2, Early Years. But we did do Torchlight Pre-K, and that was really good. If you're looking for something for your son between what you're doing now and getting into Torchlight K, Pre-K is a great ramp up because it still has a ton of books. Lots going on. Not nearly as much as Torchlight K though. I'm in the middle planning.
Yeah,
that's got a significant amount more. So
I'm going to be reading a lot.
Yeah, we've actually done some of the book lists for the Torchlight Pre-K, and we love it. Okay, and I've pulled some of their spines into our breakfast basket. So.
Yeah, their spines are really good. The Breathe Like a Bear, the Animals one, all those spines are
really good.
The cards are really good.
The emotion cards, we have
the feelings cards.
Yes.
Yeah, they're so good. We didn't. Yeah, I kind of thought it was cheesy when I got it, as before we'd done it, and I was like, okay, how does rabbit feel? Okay. You know what I mean? I kind of thought it was a little lame.
No, she lashed right onto it.
Gosh, yeah. It was totally.
Yeah, he likes most of them. Sometimes I'll ask and he'll look at me like, well, I don't know. And like, how should I do that?
Some of them are a little bit tricky. And I think maybe that's kind of, I guess, part of the point that they're making.
Yeah.
I think that it's much better suited with our older. We did it when she was kind of going from that 3.5 to 4.5 type stage. And I really think it's really better for the 4-5 stage.
Yeah.
Because it's got a lot going on. Not
Yeah,
that she didn't enjoy it
for them to articulate all of that.
Yeah, like I think if when we do it again with our youngest, I think we're going to swap the Blossom and Root at the time. We're going to do Blossom and Root first, and then we'll do the Torchlight.
Yeah, I feel like it's a better ramp. We're going to do like,
because that's what I dove into homeschooling wise. I dove right into that for week 1. It was just like, holy cow, what am I doing?
Right,
yeah, it's a lot.
It's a little bit of a jump off the diving board there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna just kind of have to see where it goes with them, and what do I think they're ready for and they need. How much are they able to follow along with what we're doing? How much do they need their own thing, and kind of take it from there.
So we're 40 minutes in. I wanted to ask you a little question about the co-op that you're joined and what you said it was about 3 hours once a week. What are they going to do in there? How long does it go? What is it going to look like? Maybe help someone who hasn't done a co-op yet.
So, well, I've never done a co-op either. And because of COVID, I wasn't able to like tour or anything like that. So all I know is just from a few phone conversations that I've had with the people that put it together. But from my understanding, it is about 20 families. And I think it was started by 3 public school teachers who were turned homeschoolers. I think it's about 3 years old. So it's, fairly established. They've been through it a few times. And it's once a week for 3 hours. And during that time, the kids are broken up into age groups. So there's like 4 and under, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, there's like little pods sort of. So it's not just one grade, but it might be 2 grades or maybe 3 in a group. And they have 3 classes during their day. They're 3 50-minute segments, which are all taught by the parents. So you must teach one class. That's sort of the agreement that you make when you join. So the classes, though, they're only 5 weeks long each. So they're kind of like mini units, and there's 5 sort of semesters during the year. And so you must teach one 5-week long class, or you can teach 5 and then your fee to join the co-op is greatly reduced. So I'm going to teach 5 classes. It may be in my son's room. It may be in another room. Most of my resources that I have from teaching are for older kids. So I'll probably pull some of those and do that. But so it's basically, it is classes, but it's not going to be like, we're going to sit in here and do this curriculum all together. The lady that I talked to said she was going to do a kindergarten, 1st grade class on money. She knows that's something, her daughter's in kindergarten, that's something she's going to need to cover that year. So she's going to do money. So for 5 weeks, they're going to do a whole bunch of money activities for one of their classes. And then another class might be some sort of music class or an art class, or for the older kids, they might be more academic. It might be a little writing mini unit. Maybe they're going to write a fairy tale. And so they'll sort of go through the steps of that. So they're just sort of little like micro classes. And then normally I think they all eat lunch together and have some social time, but due to COVID, they can't. So I think they go to a park and eat lunch and play at the park after those classes are over.
Okay. That sounds really interesting. And are you willing to share how much like something like that costs? Or just for listeners?
I think that varies widely. Based on whoever's organizing it and what they're doing. This one, I think it was like 200 something if you taught the 5 classes for a whole family with 3 kids. They had a rolling scale based on how many kids there were also. But I think I had a choice of like 250 or 450, depending on whether I was going to teach one class or 5.
Is that a per month? I mean, is that a per month or per semester?
No, per year for the year.
Wow.
Well, that's
that
that's
is
not bad.
basically
Sounds like a steal.
all it is. Nobody's really making money. That's covering the insurance and the rental of the facility that we're going to use and supplies. So like if someone's going to do a novel study, they'll buy the book for all of the kids that are in that class. Some people do co-ops, just out of their home. So maybe it's only one or two other families, and maybe they're going to get together and do Blossom and Root third grade science together.
Is there anything special you have to do with the state regarding the co-op, or is this just is it an addition to what you're currently doing?
It's an addition to what we're currently doing, but I think people it would still count. So if you were reviewing with the county and you were showing what you did and you were saying, I provided math instruction, you might show, the project that they did with money in the co-op versus a worksheet page that you did at home.
Okay. Well, I think we'll close it out here with maybe a final question. Do you have any recommendations you can pass on to, a parent who might be starting today, and they've got a 4-year-old and maybe they have twins as well. And, what type of wisdom, over the last year that you've been doing this, and then obviously your experience of teaching for 10 years beyond that, what kind of advice and wisdom can you give?
Sure. So I would say, it's so easy to get overwhelmed with everything that's out there, all of the choices that you have. So if you're just starting out with a younger student, preschool, pre-K, kindergarten, use this time to see what works for your family in terms of homeschool. You might do some research and decide that you really like the look of a Charlotte Mason homeschool or a classical homeschool. Don't feel like you have to commit to that till you see what works in practice for your family. Because one of the great things about homeschool is that freedom that it offers you. So, take advantage of that and don't let yourself be confined by some sort of ideal or like a way that you think it should be because you follow a bunch of homeschool accounts on Instagram and that's what they do.
But make sure you follow Homeschool Together podcast on Instagram.
Well, it's so hard, right? So I feel like it's like, our keeping up with the Joneses is digital now.
Oh yeah.
And you look at some stuff, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing that. It can be discouraging, I think.
Right. I like to try to remember just use it as inspiration and ideas, but not like the be all end all of this is what it should be and this is what it should look like, because everybody's family is different, everybody's homeschool is different, everybody's circumstances are different. And then the other thing that I would say for new homeschoolers is just be flexible with your days. It's great to have a plan. I always have a plan, but I always know that my plan is probably not going to happen the way that I'm imagining it. So like be prepared, but be ready to kind of roll with the way it's going. If you have an art project plan, this 30-minute art project, and you're like, yes, we're going to do it before lunch. And then your twins figure out how to unscrew the tops on all your paint bottles. Instead, you have to clean a giant mess up. Ask me how I thought of that one. And now you have 10 minutes instead. Swap something in. Oh, I had a 10-minute science thing that I was going to show him tomorrow. I'm just going to do that now, and the art thing can wait till tomorrow. Or like maybe we'll just have to table that and for the weekend or next week, or maybe we're not going to do it, and that's going to be okay too.
I think that's just fantastic advice. I really appreciate you spending the time with us and sharing your story. I think a lot of new homeschoolers can feel like they got a lot out of what you've been able to do this year, and the confidence to go forward. I think this has just been wonderful.
Well, thanks so much, Sarah, for coming on the show today. And if folks want to follow your family's homeschooling journey, where can they find you?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram. We're at Our Little Homeschool, but it's actually _ Our Little Homeschool _ that's what was available. And
we'll put a link in the show notes so that everyone can click on it and check it out. We'd love to follow your journey and any other wild and crazy adventures with toddlers. Ours today decided to get into the apple the apple bag and decided to take one bite out of all the apples. So
yeah, we've been there too.
a line of 6 apples with one toddler bite out of each one. So we have a lot of apple slices. I told Matthew.
Some gum today. I found a trail of gum wrappers and then a giant wad of gum in my son's mouth. So yeah.
I was upstairs, but did I hear our oldest yelling about there was poop on the floor?
Yeah, that was the dog.
Oh, that was the dog.
The dog carried in some poop, right? But of course,
look at that face.
Oh, yeah, she's looking at us, right? But of course, the older is yelling about the poop, right, to get my attention, and the toddler thinks, "Oh, there's poop," right? She's really interested, and so it was chaos. Our toddler did a pull up onto the bathroom sink earlier this morning. I found her sitting in your sink, Matt, and trying to eat a cologne.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, and then she took a bite out of my soap.
Yeah, mine get the electric toothbrush, my husband's electric toothbrush.
Yes,
That's a really fun one.
So listeners, these are things you will be following on Sarah's Instagram.
Right. Yeah.
Come see our crazy days.
Come see. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time.
Happy homeschooling!